Chicago, 1953. The snow fell dirty on the south side, streaked gray like soot from the nearby factories. Lila Madsen stood stiff on the steps of St. Dymphna's home for girls, clutching a suitcase that wasn't hers. Inside it, a scorched Bible, a jar of buttons, and a blood-streaked ribbon knotted 3 times. Sister Agnes had met her at the train station, eyes sunken and voice soft as moth wings. She'd said nothing during the cab ride, except once, when Lila looked out the window too long. "Best not to stare," she warned. "He sees you when you stare too long." Lila didn't ask who he was. She was used to grown-ups talking sideways. St. Dymphna's looked like a church that had stopped believing. Its windows were fogged with grime. The crucifix above the entrance cracked straight down Christ's face. The front doors groaned when opened, as if the building didn't want any more souls. The first thing Lila noticed inside was the quiet, not peaceful quiet, the kind that sticks to your skin like old milk. The walls were yellowed and smelled of stale incense and cheap bleach. Everything felt faintly wet. That's when she saw her, Sister Maureen Mercy. She was enormous, not fat, just too much. Her face blotchy, her eyes bloodshot and slow. Her black veil hung crooked, and in her right hand, dangling like a toy, was a leather strap darkened at the end. Her other hand clutched a flask disguised as a holy water vial. "Another mouth to feed," Sister Mercy muttered. She looked Lila over like meat on a slab. "Let's pray you learn obedience, girl. I don't like repeating myself." Lila's grip on the suitcase tightened. Behind her, the doors closed on their own. The chapel smelled of vinegar and mildew. Rows of splintered pews sat uneven across a crooked floor. The stained glass windows bled faint jaundiced light. Saints with melted eyes, halos smeared like oil slicks. At the altar, a statue of the Virgin Mary leaned slightly to one side, her face chipped where the mouth should have been. They called it Vespers, but it wasn't prayer. Each Friday at dusk, Sister Mercy lined the girls up like lambs before slaughter. No speaking, no blinking, no chewing if your supper hadn't settled yet. Only silence. This night, Lila stood between Ruthie, a sniffling 6-year-old who chewed her knuckles raw, and Anna May, a tall, chalk-faced girl who stared too hard and never blinked. Anna May whispered to her once, only once. She picks who she hears whispering. At the front, Sister Mercy lifted her flask with ceremonial slowness, swigging deeply before opening her prayer book. The words were in Latin, but twisted. Wrong. Lila didn't recognize the cadence, but something about it made her skin crawl, like the words weren't meant for children, or humans. Behind the altar, a red curtain hung taut. No breeze, no movement. Yet it swayed faintly. Lila saw it. So did Anna May, who clutched her crucifix and began rocking. Sister Mercy snapped the book shut. Her lips curled in a wine-stained smile. "Tonight, the silence of God shall take one." Ruthie whimpered. Sister Mercy walked the line, slow and humming. Her breath reeked of fermented grapes and something rotted. She paused beside each girl, whispered into their ear, moved on. She stopped at Anna May. "You dream too loud," she said softly. Anna May didn't flinch, just turned and walked behind the red curtain without a word. Lila heard nothing, not even footsteps, only Sister Mercy, sighing. Blessed be the voiceless. The next morning, Anna May's bed was stripped bare. Her cross hung on the post, snapped in half. No one asked, no one spoke. It was as if she'd never existed. At breakfast, Lila tried to whisper to Ruthie, just a question, a simple, "Where did they take her?" But Ruthie stared straight ahead, lips trembling. Her oatmeal sat untouched, going cold in the bowl. A cockroach crawled up the side, bold in the silence. No one swatted it. Sister Mercy stalked the room like a butcher's shadow, dragging her rosary against the wall as she walked. Clack, clack, clack. "God hears everything," she said sweetly, "but only some he answers." Lila hated her, not just the sour stink of wine and rot. Not the way her eyes darted like a lizard's. No, it was the voice, syrupy, crooning, like a lullaby wrapped around a scream. That night, Lila crept out of bed. She padded down the hall, past the broken crucifix and the locked pantry, past the portrait of Pope Pius with gouged out eyes. The chapel door was ajar. Candlelight flickered through the crack like a pulse. She pushed it open slowly. Sister Mercy stood alone at the altar, not praying, digging. With her bare hands, she scraped at the wooden floor, peeling back old planks. Her fingers bled, but she didn't seem to notice. Beneath the boards, something shifted, wet, slithering. Lila stepped back, heart pounding. The floor creaked. Sister Mercy froze, then turned. Slowly, her eyes catching Lila in the dark. Well, she breathed. The lamb strays early. She smiled. Not cruel, not angry, excited. I'll fetch the key. She began humming a nursery rhyme Lila didn't know, the same 3 notes over and over, echoing down the corridor. Lila ran. Behind her, Sister Mercy laughed, high, lilting, and full of joy. Lila didn't sleep. The hallway light flickered all night, casting Sister Mercy's shadow long and thin outside the dormitory door. She never entered, but she waited, humming. Always humming, like a metronome measuring fear. By dawn, Lila made a decision. She would find Anna May, or proof of what had happened to her. She didn't care if it got her sent behind the red curtain, too. She wasn't like the others. She needed to know. At breakfast, she kept her eyes low, watched the adults. Sister Agnes handed out toast with shaking hands. Sister Callista scribbled notes in a leather-bound journal, eyes darting to the chapel every few seconds. Then, on a tray beside the tea, a thin red book, unlabeled, faint burn marks on the spine. Lila took it. She hid it under her blouse and waited for the bell to ring for chores. Then, tucked in the back of the laundry room, behind damp sheets and rusted mangle wheels, she opened it. The pages were brittle, covered in slanted handwriting. Names, dates, and under each one, a single phrase, taken to silence. Anna May was there. So was Ruthie's older sister, Agnes II, and over 30 more, some names so old the ink had faded into the paper. The last page was dated just 2 nights ago. A name was already written, Lila Madsen. No explanation, no ceremony, just her name, waiting for its fate. Suddenly, a whisper behind her. Don't let her write it in ink. Lila turned. Ruthie stood in the doorway, pale and shaking, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one eye missing. She only uses pencil first. Ink makes it real. Lila's mouth dried. How do you know? Ruthie looked up, her lips trembling. Because she wrote my name last week. She opened her hand. Inside was a page torn from the book, her name, scribbled, erased, then smeared in red ink. I took it back, Ruthie whispered, but it still hurts when I sleep. Then she began to hum, the same 3 notes Sister Mercy sang, but backwards. That night, Lila didn't wait for vespers. She crept out before the bell, red book wrapped in a sheet and pressed tight to her chest. Ruthie followed barefoot, silent as smoke. Together they slipped into the chapel, past the altar, to the warped floorboards Sister Mercy had clawed open. Lila dropped to her knees, pulled. The boards gave way with a soft groan. Beneath them, the scent of wet earth and old meat rose like breath from a shallow grave. A trap door. She pried it open. A narrow stairwell spiraled into darkness, slick with mildew. From below came a soft, rhythmic sound, not quite breathing, not quite movement, a scraping, a slow, wet pull. Stay, Lila whispered to Ruthie. She took the book, gritted her teeth, and descended. The air grew colder with each step. The walls were stone, lined with claw marks. Near the bottom, a candle burned low in a wine bottle, illuminating a small chamber, no bigger than a pantry. In the center, a makeshift altar of broken pews and children's toys. And behind it, something. At first she thought it was a statue, tall, cloaked, unmoving, but it breathed, shallow, rattling. Its face was a mask, wood or bone, with carved out eyes and no mouth. The rosary wrapped around its throat dripped red. It turned toward her slowly, like it had been waiting. Lila couldn't move. The book pulsed in her hand. She stepped forward. The thing reached toward it, not with a hand, but with something else, something that shimmered like ink in water. Then, stop. Sister Mercy stood behind her, voice thick with drink and rage. That book belongs to me. Lila turned, heart pounding. Sister Mercy descended the stairs barefoot, muttering in a broken tongue. The thing behind her twitched. Its rosary rattled. You think it feeds on flesh? She hissed. Flesh rots. Faith, fear, obedience, those are eternal. She held out her hand. Give it back, or it'll take you instead. Lila looked at the book, then at the thing. Then she ran. Lila burst from the stairwell into the chapel, heart hammering like fists on a locked door. Behind her, Sister Mercy howled. Not words, just rage, deep and guttural. The trapdoor slammed shut on its own, sealing with a click like bone snapping. Ruthie was gone. Only her rabbit lay on the floor, soaked in wine. The candles had all gone out. Lila staggered backward, clutching the red book to her chest. The chapel stretched longer than it had before, distorted, almost dreamlike. At the far end, where no one ever dared go, stood the old confessional. It hadn't been used in decades. The priest stopped coming, but the door hung slightly open now, waiting. Something inside it moved. Lila stepped forward, knees trembling. As she approached, she noticed the crucifix above the booth had been turned upside down, not hung that way, but twisted. Carved into the wood were the words, "Blessed be the voiceless." She pulled the door open. Inside, not darkness, but a mirror, cracked, fogged, and humming with a low, sick vibration. As she stared, the glass began to shift. Not a reflection, but a window, showing the other girls. Agnes the second, Anna May, Ruthie. They were inside the mirror, all of them, mouths sewn shut, eyes wide with silent screams. Behind them stood Sister Mercy, head tilted back in ecstasy, drinking from the flask. But her reflection, her true self, was different. No face, just a wide, wet smile cut ear to ear, and eyes that blinked vertically. Lila screamed. The mirror shattered. A voice echoed through the chapel. Confess and be kept. She turned to run, but Sister Mercy was already there, arms wide, blocking the aisle. God can't hear you down here, she cooed, voice syrup slick. But he does. And behind her, crawling up from the trapdoor like smoke, came the masked thing, dragging its rosary and wearing Ruthie's stuffed rabbit on its shoulder like a crown. Lila ran. Through the dormitory, down the corridor lined with portraits whose eyes had never stopped following her, past the kitchen where the pots bled rust and the pantry where no food had been stored in years. She didn't look back. Sister Mercy's footsteps echoed too close behind, unhurried, confident, like a hunter certain of her kill. Lila burst into the attic. Dust choked the air. Broken trunks, faded dolls, and water-warped hymnals littered the space. A shattered phonograph spun slowly in silence. She slammed the door shut, turned the rusted key, and breathed. She was alone, almost. In the far corner sat a wooden rocking chair, and in it Anna May, not a ghost, not quite. She turned slowly, her sewn lips now ragged and split, as if torn open by sheer force of will. You came, she rasped. Lila nodded, tears hot in her eyes. I saw you, in the confessional, in the mirror. Anna May shook her head. Not a mirror, she whispered. A gate. She held something in her lap, a rosary, but not like the others. This one glowed faintly gold, untouched by Mercy's rot. She feeds it, with silence. That's what it eats. Words unspoken, Screams swallowed, secrets buried. Lila dropped to her knees. How do I stop her? Anime pressed the rosary into Lila's hand. Break the silence. Suddenly, a slam downstairs. Footsteps, closer. The door rattled, screeched. Then, a voice. Lila, Sister Mercy sang, slow and playful. I forgive you, child. Come back. It's cold down there without you. Lila stood, clutching the golden rosary. I'm not yours, she whispered. No, Anime said softly, but you were written. Lila pulled the red book from beneath her coat. Its cover pulsed now, like it was breathing. The ink inside bled through the pages. Her name glowed red. She tore the page out and burned it on the attic's single candle. Sister Mercy screamed. The house shook. From below came the sound of wood splitting and bone. Lila opened the window and leapt. Lila hit the frozen earth hard. The snow broke her fall, barely. Her ankle twisted. Pain shot up her leg like fire. But she didn't stop. She limped through the courtyard, past the statue of Saint Dymphna, whose stone face now wept black tears, toward the iron gates. They were open. Just open. As if someone had been waiting for her to leave. She didn't question it. She ran. Behind her, Saint Dymphna's groaned, like a dying animal, like old lungs expelling one final breath. The windows flickered. The tower bell rang once, though no rope had been pulled in years. And then, silence. Real silence. For days, no one found her. Lila wandered to the next parish over, collapsed in the vestibule of St. Catherine's. They cleaned her wounds, fed her soup, asked questions she didn't answer. Eventually, a kind young priest sat beside her. You're safe now, he said. St. Dymphna's was condemned this morning, empty. No sisters, no children, just rot. Lila's hands trembled. They were there, she whispered. All of them. She wrote their names. She fed. He gently took her hand. You're tired. She looked up. His collar was crisp, his smile soft, too soft, and his eyes,